Vedant, and welcome to season 5 of my podcast. Today, my guest is Rani Wilfred, a realtor, biker, and animal advocate. Hi, Rani. Welcome to my show.
Hi, Vedant. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's such a great pleasure and a privilege both. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, me too. And thanks for helping so many people sell their properties.
It's my pleasure.
So, Rani, I'm curious to know, what does a realtor do?
Okay, what a realtor does is it's everything to do with real estate. For example, shelter or a home or an office is such an important and integral part of one's life. You know, when you're growing up, you have to have a home to live in, right?
Yeah.
And as you grow up, then you have to have an office to go to work.
Yeah,
or if you're working from home, you need a shelter, a walls, and a roof over your head to protect you, to live as a family, to grow, to rest, to eat, to spend good time together. So I believe that real estate is a very, very important and integral part of one's life. And a realtor helps people with all real estate matters where it comes to selling and buying. If suppose somebody wants to buy a property, or they want to sell a property, or they want to take a property on rent, or they want to give it on rent, then there are professionals who know about the real estate domain and who are able to help them. Because for them to find a property on their own would take a long time. So somebody who is good real estate agent will know what the client wants, and they will help them get that property because they already have sourced and identified some places.
Is it fun being a realtor?
Oh, yes, because people trust you, and you meet people when they are in such an important part of their life. Whenever somebody is transacting real estate, they are looking for a lot of support. They're wanting to meet somebody, a realtor who they can trust and who will be a partner in this transaction to make sure it's a pleasant transaction. So it is very, very interesting. I meet a lot of amazing people, and it's a lot of fun. If I do my job well, it's a lot of fun because then they appreciate you. And when you're being appreciated, it doesn't become work anymore.
How do you decide what kind of property suits each client? Like if an apartment or an independent house is better suited?
Okay. For example, let's understand how I look at property, a residential property. I look at it as a home, whether it's a single person or a family, whether it's just like mom, dad, and child, or the grandparents too. One has to understand that this will be a space which will be used by these people to live in, So we have to understand the requirement of each person. Now, suppose it's got a multi-generational family, we cannot give them a property that's just one standalone building and has no community, right? Everyone will be bored. So I ask a lot of questions. If there's a young child, growing children, then they need a safe play areas, safe commute closer to schools. And if there's also senior citizens, then it's very important for the medical facilities to be available at a very short distance. So we ask them what exactly they're looking for, and this property has to meet their requirements and give them a comfortable living, so that they are able to come back home, get fresh, rest, have a family time, and then they go out in the world. Children go to school, parents go out to work, so they feel rested, refreshed, and go out in the world and do their things. So that is only possible when they get the right home which supports their living. So sometimes it is an apartment. If it's an apartment, it has some positives because they don't have to do the entire maintenance. The society does all the maintenance of the play areas, the common areas, So, and there's a lot of company to play with. So that's a benefit of apartments. You have a community there. Now, if you're living alone in a bungalow, what happens is it gives you your own personal space with your own garden, your own space also. But then you have to be more responsible, because then you have to take care of your own garden, you have to take care of your own property. So it varies that way. A lot of people prefer to buy apartments because they are much less expensive, because more apartments are built in a smaller space, and you know they're safer also. I think out of every 50 residential transactions, maybe one is a bungalow or an independent house. Recently, off late, over the last 10 years, at least 49 are apartments.
How does one decide whether they should buy the house or rent it out?
It's a good question. It's a very, very good question, because um, that decision will help them. Either they want to get a property, or it's better for them to rent. Now, let's look what are the parameters. If you want to buy a house, you have to have a down payment, a certain amount of money, which you have to pay to the builder to book. Also, you have to be working in a place for at least a couple of years and having paid income tax to the government of India for at least 3 years, so that you can get the remaining money on loan from the bank. So you have to be financially able to make those arrangements. Even if you have your own money, what happens is, if you buy a house, then you save on the rent. Because once you pay the rent, it never comes back. So a lot of people, they ultimately, their dream is to own their own house, because it gives them a sense of security. It's they don't have to keep shifting houses, and then they can do the kind of furniture they want. It's like your own house. It gives you a stability in life. So that's one reason why people buy homes. But also there are people who nowadays, if they are not sure they're going to stay in one place for a longer time and they're keeping on moving, then they'd rather rent a place, and they will buy a place only when they want to settle down.
In a house and they live in it for 1 or 2 months, but after some time they feel like they don't really like it. What do they do?
Yes, that happens sometimes, because there are many reasons why people do not wish to continue a living in arrangement, a rental arrangement in a property. One reason is they get into a situation where they have to move away, like they get a transfer, or they move on to a new job, they move out of the country, or they have to go back to their family to be able to spend, their family needs them. So there is always some event why they want to move. This is one reason. The second reason is the house or the property is not up to the expectations. Either whatever was committed to them is not being fulfilled, as in there is no conveniences around the place, or there is a water problem, or there is a security problem. So when we make the agreement for the rental agreement, there is a clause known as the lock-in clause. So if I were to rent a house and there is a lock-in for 6 months, then I'm forced to stay there for 6 months. If after 3 months, if I want to move, I will have to give the owner the rent for the remaining 3 months, because I reassured them that I am going to stay here. If there's a problem with the apartment, then we can break that agreement and legally move away. But if they have their own personal situation, that somebody gets a good job and they want to move away, and there's nothing problem with the apartment, then the lock-in clause comes into play, and then they can pay the remaining 3 months and move away. Sometimes people who are not sure that they want to stay for the entire year, they request that there should not be a lock-in period, but just a 1 or 2 months notice period. So when you want to move away, you just say that, okay, I'm serving a 1 month notice and I'm moving out. So this is the reason. But if there's a real problem with the apartment, like there's a water seepage in the walls, or there's a water plumbing problem which is very serious, then one doesn't have to honor the lock-in period or the notice period. You can just move out.
What made you choose to be a realtor?
Well, yeah, that's again something that I love talking about, because in 2000 I came to Pune and I was looking, Vedant, for a house to live in. And it was the first time I came across a real estate agent. And I was not able to get the kind of services that I was expecting. Now, let's look at how the world works. Have you heard of the term called roti, kapda, or makan?
No.
So the basic shelter, three basic things that a person needs. Roti is food, food to survive. Kapda is clothes we wear. And makan is the shelter or the house, right? These are the basic needs of any person. Which is the most expensive?
The house.
House is most expensive, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you go into the market to buy a refrigerator, which costs maybe 50,000 rupees, how are you treated at the showroom? Very nicely, right?
Yeah.
They say, sir, please come in, have a look. These are the refrigerators, right? And they explain to you, they try to give you all the information. And if you go to buy a car, which is about 20 lakhs, you are again treated very well. No, you get all the services, all the information is given to you. You are helped. You experience very good customer care. But what happens when people want to go buy a property or rent a property? Mostly they do not experience the kind of customer care or assistance they should when they are going to invest about 1 crore of rupees, right?
Yeah.
It's an expensive thing. Because if something goes wrong, it leaves a very bad impact on their personal situation, on their life situation. So when I came here and I saw that I was not getting the help that I needed, I was shocked, and so I said, well, let me be the change that I want to see. And I was also looking to do something new. When I realized that there is a first mover advantage, there's nobody then 23 years ago, there was so much need for these services. So I decided that I will train myself. I got myself a mentor. I studied the market for 6 months. And then I started helping people with real estate services.
Because you didn't get the right help, you decided to help loads of people who need the right help. That's really nice.
Yeah, that's how it is, right? That's how you validate your presence. The most successful businesses are the ones that provide a solution. Life is always about providing a solution, right? Like, I'm a real estate agent, I'm helping people, but I also need food, I need car, I need petrol, I need a computer. I'm a customer for so many other thousand things, right? So everybody needs help at a certain time. And I just said, yeah, that's how I think life is. If you find a solution to a pain point, you can't go wrong. People appreciate it.
That's really nice.
Yeah, thank you.
You mentioned that you would like to encourage more women to take up real estate professions. Can you tell me more about this issue?
Yeah, sure. I have my mentor is one of the founding members of an organization called uh, Women's Council of Realtors in the US.
Mm-hmm.
And when they set up in the 1960s, they were laughed at because till then women were just selling Tupperware, and so they were called the kitty party girls. And everyone thought they're not going to be successful. But they became very, very successful because they were helping a lot of people buy homes, because women run homes. They know exactly what the family needs. And also women do multitasking, right? So they work, if they work outside, and they also manage the home, they take care of the children. So they do multitasking, even with help from the husbands. But both of them do multitask. So women make excellent property managers. They know how to manage the property. They know how to take care of the property. They know what the family needs. They know, they have an eye for detail. But the reason why they don't come into the business, because real estate in India, for the larger number of years until now, things are slightly changing. Anybody could become a real estate agent. You don't need a certification, you don't need education, you don't not need a qualification, you don't have any standards of service. You don't, you're not expected to commit anything to the client. So anybody just woke up in the morning and said, okay, I couldn't do anything else, let me become a real estate agent. And that is why the sector was very disorganized. And when there's no organization and there's no commitment, then it gets a bad name. So that is why women were not encouraged to get into this business, because one flat would be with 50 agents, right? And everybody is trying to get the transaction, and there's a lot of insecurity, a lot of wrong information given. So it always was perceived as with a negative connotation, being in real estate. But I devised a way in which women can engage in real estate as a profession. They can earn an excellent name, transact with a lot of respect and dignity, and make a lot of money. Now, I will tell you how. For example, there is something known as an exclusive mandate. An exclusive mandate is where a client gives their property to just one agent, and that agent has all the information and the authority to sell their property. So this way, that agent is able to also share this property information with many other agents. But however, there is one price in the market. So what happens is there's a lot of security in the way of working. So what happens is, suppose a lady comes into real estate, she doesn't have to compete with the unethical agents. She doesn't have to work on properties which are with 50 other agents, but she has this one property over which she has an exclusive mandate, and she can very transparently offer this to other buyers, right? So immediately it creates an aura of trust. She doesn't have to worry about, oh, this property is with so many other people, and so many other people, other agents are quoting so many prices. The clients don't get confused. This lady is able to share all the information of that property with the buyers without worrying. So that is one thing. And second thing is, there's another aspect of real estate called property management. A lot of property owners, sometimes they are outside of India, right? They are non-resident Indians, or they're not staying in that particular city, and they have no one to take care of their properties and rent it out and manage it for them. So if women get into property management, they are able to help the property owners by giving them all these services, which are really appreciated. Because if property owners don't have anyone to manage their properties, many times they just stay locked up. They don't earn an income, they don't get taken care of, they don't get cleaned. As a result, they depreciate in value and condition. So I'm looking in the next 2 years to set up a system where more women can come in. They can learn from me how to manage properties, how to do ethical real estate transactions. And since I'm also a real estate best practices coach, I will also impress upon them that the best way to build a real estate business is to be ethical, to be transparent, and to be diligent and help the clients as much as you can, because then you don't have to worry about your business because your clients build the business. They give you recommendations and they talk about the agent to their friends and family. And so the agent gets more business. So it can be a very, very ethical, very, very respectful and dignified business too.
Do you have any advice for young people who want to join the real estate business?
Yes, please. Real estate services is an amazing profession to be in because people will always buy homes. It is everyone's dream to have a home of their own, And once they have a home, either they use it or they rent it out or they want someone to manage it. So it is an evergreen profession where the need will never reduce. The people will always want to have real estate assistance. So what I would advise young people is there is a need for ethical, highly professional experts to come into the real estate domain so that buying, selling, managing properties can be a very pleasant experience because people have already done that bit by investing in the property. They shouldn't have to suffer after investing, So they need help. So it's very important that more people come into this business and transform this entire real estate services domain into something that's very, very highly organized and also accountable services.
That's some really good advice. Listeners, please follow this advice if you want to become a real estate agent.
Thank you.
You are also a biker. What got you interested in this?
Yeah, it's one of my most favorite things that I do for myself. Vedant, I grew up in the countryside and my house was halfway up a hill. So I used to cycle a lot. I had a red bike, a normal cycle. And right from the time I was in school, I've been cycling. When I was in college, I used to do a lot of cycling. And later on, as you grow older, then you want to start riding the motorcycles. So I learned motorcycling at a very young age, and it gave me mobility. When I'm 57 now, so when I was very young, there were not many girls riding motorcycles. But I still learned it because I needed to be mobile. They were like wings. You can go so far walking, you can go so far on a cycle, but then the motorcycle got me everywhere. It got me to my NCC, where I had my events. I could go to college, and when I started working also, I realized that to be successful in life, mobility is a very important thing. And also, I like motorcycling because sometimes when I am going around alone, I do not see the need to waste so much fuel by taking the car out just for me. And it's not very sunny or the weather is good. So that's the time the motorcycle still comes handy and is a very active part of my life.
Yeah, that sounds fun. My uncle also has a motorcycle and I've been on it a few times.
Wow, that's nice.
It's quite fun.
It's really fun. I totally agree.
What has been the most interesting adventure you have been on?
Good question. I don't know if I can call it an adventure, but it's really interesting and it really was very testing and challenging. When I came to Pune and I got into the real estate business and I started doing well, I got more and more busy with the business and I stopped riding bikes. I stopped doing things that I loved, going out and just being in nature, and just going and hugging trees. I realized that I got so much carried off with the work because I was wanting to do a very good job, and I was so detail oriented that I was so much passionate about the work. And then what happened was, I started getting a certain pain in my belly, and the doctor says you got like ovarian cyst cancer. You have to be operated. And it was such a shock to me because I was always very, very fit, And after surgery, the doctor said after 4 days, this is not cancer. Okay. So everyone was very upset. They said, how could they do this? But I was very happy because it gave me a wake up call. If that hadn't happened, I would have spent another 10 years probably just working. But because that happened, and those 4 days of thinking I really have cancer made me realize that how precious life is. So after that, I went and got myself a bike. I got a Jeep, and I started riding. I started hugging trees again. I started watching the stars. I started, doing all the things that I did in my childhood and growing up, and which I had forgotten as an adult. So when I before buying a bike, I rented a bike to go to the Rider Mania in Goa. It's a riders festival which happens every year in Goa. So I was very, very thrilled. So I just rented a bike. I didn't have my new bike yet, and I took to this bike and I started. When I started my ride to Goa, it broke down in like 5 different places. Yeah. And I had made up my mind that no matter what, I'm not going to give up. I used to get it repaired and ride. And it used to break down, and I had to go to the next place, get it, put it in a tempo, take it to the next village, get it repaired. Finally, I reached Rider Mania, I think 4 hours before it got over, at the fag end of it. But I was very happy because for me, it was very significant that I did not give up. I reached there, and I was so happy to see the hundreds and thousands of bikes parked there, and all the bikers had come from so many places. And that was a beginning of a new life for me. That, yes, life has to be lived, and we have to do things that we love on an everyday basis, because you never know what happens when. So the best thing to do is always do things that you love, and also do the work that you love.
That's very important. I'll make sure that when I grow up, I don't stop doing things that I do now, and I'll always do what I love.
I'm sure, and that's the only way to be. And it will give me great pleasure. You have a fan in me. It was such a pleasure meeting you, and I will be there, enjoying your journey, and really rooting for you.
Thank you. You're a vegan and you rescue animals too. Can you share a little about this part of your life?
Sure, Vedant. I grew up in a Christian family, so eating meat was no special thing. It was a part of your growing up. Every Sunday fair, every Sunday there is to be non-veg. There is to be meat on the table, and I loved animals from childhood. I would start bringing injured animals, lost animals from the age of when I was 5. I started bringing them home. But somehow I never could associate the meat on the plate with the animals that I was helping. And that continued for a very, very long time. A very long time. Until about 8 years ago, I think. A friend, when I went biking, there was this young person who was a biker. He was not an animal lover, and neither was he a vegan. So he told me that, he said, Rani, I know that you're a very straightforward person, but there is something amiss in your life, because you're talking about vegan, you're talking about loving animals. are you an animal lover? I said, yes. He says, no, you're not an animal lover. You're a dog and cat lover. You're not an animal lover because what gives you the right to eat one animal and spare the other? Does one animal feel anything lesser than the other? What gives you the right? And that really hit me so much, so badly, Vedant. And he sent me a couple of videos and he told me, don't worry, this is not about slaughter. This is not, there's no animal that is going to be really slaughtered in this video. And this video was about this one cow, which, you know, what they do with cows is, for example, after they stop giving enough milk, they send them for slaughter. But having been kept continuously pregnant, they become very weak. And when they become a little older and weak, they can't walk. The backbone collapses. So there was this cow that had collapsed, a very heavy cow, and they were pushing her with a bulldozer and like a football, and she was screaming. And I saw like 10 seconds of that. And after that, I was crying for sobbing like somebody died for 4 days. And so I didn't have to watch any slaughter videos. And that is how my life changed, because that's what happened. And I don't judge anybody, because I have been on the other side. I was a hardcore meat eater. In fact, I used to make fun of people who don't eat meat. I would call them the Ghasfoos Brigade, you know, and I would really look down on them and make fun of them when I was younger. But when this transition happened, I promised to myself that from now on, I will, all my decisions in my life, not just food, I will try and see that there is no cruelty involved, no pain and hurt to other sentient beings involved. That's how I became a vegan. You know, earlier I was doing a lot of animal, I would rescue dogs, cats, cows, whatever. I used to see people abusing animals. I would step in and raise my voice. I was very unafraid about this. But when this thing happened and this, I was challenged with this, it changed my life. So it's been 8 years now. I've been a vegan, and it's the best thing that has happened to me because it's made me more conscious. I don't blame myself, or I don't beat myself for what I was earlier. But I'm grateful that what happened in due time, in the right time. And where I am now, at least I'm not in a place where I'm hurting animals. And because of my writings, and I'm also a vegan food coach, I cook a lot of vegan stuff and feed my friends. A lot of people have realized that you can still be healthy and you can eat nutritious food. Then I went one step ahead. I did the plant-based nutrition course from Cornell, you know, eCornell, run by the Center for Nutritional Sciences, and which was guided by Dr. Campbell. So, well, I have also been studying. I've been studying, and well, that's my vegan journey. And yes, I think that all of us eventually, when we become more conscious or somebody challenges us, we take a peek through the door and then we decide what our heart tells us, you know. That was my story.
It's a very inspiring story. What did you want to be as a child?
As a child, I wanted to be a dancer.
What are your hobbies?
I like biking, then I like cooking, eating nice food. I'm a foodie. I'm very interested in food. Then I like to write and read. I love reading. I like watching amazing, lovely documentaries and movies about, I like animation movies, and I like movies about animals. I'm very much into animals. So anything that's nice. I don't like violence. I don't like to, you know, so I don't watch those kind of movies. But anything other than that, I like watching movies too.
Yeah, even I like reading loads of books. Like for the first few days after I come home, I fresh up, do my homework, and then I go sit on my bed and start reading.
Wow. Nice. That's nice to know.
Thank you so much for coming on my show.
Thank you, Vedant. And I really appreciate being on the show.
Dear listeners, follow my Facebook page, Curious Vedant, to get updates on my upcoming episodes. To listen at leisure on your phone and get notified about future episodes, subscribe by searching for Curious Vedant wherever you get your podcasts, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can also listen to my show on curiousvedant.com. Thank you for listening to Curious Vedant. And don't forget to rate and leave comments